Hi, I'm Jim Knotts, President and CEO of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund. Welcome to today's virtual reading of the names. 2022 marks the 40th anniversary of the dedication of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Washington, D.C. As part of our commemoration, we'll host an in-person reading of the names at the wall from November 7th through 10th, 2022, when all 58,281 names on the wall will be read aloud. In the lead up to that event, we'll be reading names each day online while sharing the photos of these heroes. For our daily virtual reading, the names of the service members will be read by month and day of death between the years 1956 and 1975 in alphabetical order for the given day. We apologize in advance for any mispronunciations. Know that our readers are doing their best to honor these service members. We hope you'll listen and watch each day and share with others as we remember and honor those who gave their lives during the Vietnam War.
Jose Quinada Aguan, William Harry Amsbacher Jr., Joseph William Axford, Ronald Gregory Babbage, Lyman Conrad Bach, Charles Clifford Bailey, Michael O'Brien Baker, Scott Douglas Baldwin, Ignacio Barella, Dwayne Roy Bumgardner, Harry Joseph Beadle Jr., Norman Beaulieu, Thomas Joseph Burning, William David Bloomfield, Michael Dennis Borman, Stephen Wesley Bowman, Bruce E. Boyer, Conley Arlen Bradshaw, Richard Lee Breck, Murray Lawrence Britton, Warren Fred Brown, Gerald Francis Brown, Arthur Broxton Jr., J.Q. Buckwalter III, Douglas MacArthur Burnett, David Graham Campbell, Daniel Lewis Carrier, Miguel Castro Carrasquillo, John Leslie Catton, Michael Howard Kavanaugh, Larry Vincent Camille, David Marion Christian,
Donald Ray Christie, John James Clark, Peter Anthony Clavio Jr., Ronald Allen Coleman, Albert Elmore Cook, Thomas Edward Craig, John Devine Cruz Jr., Emmett Lee Davis, Jackie Lee Dickens, Dennis Earl Dillon, David Lee Dixon, Mark Stephen Dreyer, William J. Duncan, Leonard Earl Dutcher, Ricky Dale Dykes, David Ray Elliott, Kenneth Richard Ensley, Reuben English, Joseph Sanchez Escobar, Coley Etheridge Jr., Joe Wofford Eubanks, John Harland Farley, Charles Douglas Farrell, Jerry L. Fields, Alejandro Francisco Fierro, Kevin Paul Forcum, Robert Glenn Galloway, Robert Earl Gary, Jeffrey Lee Gelden, James Val Gibson, Thomas Orville Gilbert, Clem Calvin Giles, Leonard Earl Giles, Gary Lynn Giles, James Robson Gilmore Jr., Joseph Michael Justa, Albert Graham Jr., Hervé Joseph Guay, Marvin Joseph Gude, Darrell Wayne Hanson, Thomas James Harbour, Daniel Lee Harmon, Daniel Wallace Harrison, Richard Eugene Heister, William Washington Hentz, John Hensley, Joshua Hickman, James Leroy Hill, Dennis Eugene Hoffman, James Michael Hoffman, Gerald C. Hunsbarger III, Jimmy Clay Hutcherson, Paul Chalmers Jonto, Thomas Eugene Johnson, Robert Louis Jones, David Michael Jordan, John James Katona Jr., Danny Joe Keith, Brian Richard Kelly, Danny Raymond King, Arnold John Kulhanek, Joseph Guy LaPointe Jr., Billy J. Lackey, Michael Allen Lamuzga,
Richard Myron Lombardo, Ricky Luker, Kenneth Bernard Luddle, Werner Erhard Letz, Paul Joseph McCuzek, Steve Gary McComb, Alan Richard Marsh, Robert Harrison Martin Jr., James Francis McGuey, Francis Russell McGowan, M.D. McMiken, Kenneth Rex McNeil, Howard Anthony Mesditz, James Eugene Milrens, Michael Paul Minahan, David Eugene Mitchell, Joe Montez, Michael Montijo, Willie Lorenzo Morgan Jr., Joe Moya, Jack Ellsworth Musner, Harold Nelson, Philip Frank Natisco, Fred Gillespie O'Malley, Stephen Ira Olney, George Robert Palermo, Philip Owen Parrish, Danny Lee Paul, Thomas Lee Plants, Jesse Gerald Poe, Donald John Porter, William Roy Porter,
George Henry Potts, Robert Leslie Poxon, Leroy Paul Prairie, James Henry Presley, Gary Owen Price, Dennis Glenn Prince, Daniel Luis Pucci, Dennis Michael Ramon, Fidel Ramos Jr., Michael Alfred Rasmussen, William Allen Rawson, Jimmy Lynn Reed, Raymond Allen Rentz, Thomas Eugene Riley, Alton Craig Rocket Jr., Manuel Rodriguez Jr., Gerald Michael Romano, Joseph Frank Rosado, Delbert Leroy Ryan, Emmanuel Lawrence Saunders, Joseph Robert Scott, Joseph John Seller, William Andrew Sinchak, Arthur Dale Sinkson, Edward Leroy Sizelove, Wilbur Allen Smith, James Gordon Smith, Ralph Wentz Smith, Ralph Edward Smith, Audryn L. Smith, Lloyd Martain Starkey, James Michael Stokes, Timothy Lawrence Strome, Frederick N. Suttle Jr., Kennard Errol Savano, Mark Randall Taylor, Preston Taylor Jr., Neil Robert Thalen, James Elmer Tyson, Edgar Durfee Thomas, Savas Escamilla Trevino, Richard Frank Trisk, Sam Richard Teresa Jr., Peter Sarovasilis, Dennis Teinstra, Douglas Raymond Ulm, Ray Leonard Ulrich, Barry Lon Unfried, John Richmond Van Horn, Joseph Tommy Vandervender, Ray Louis Van Zantz, Michael James Verstraete, Raymond Villalpando Jr., Andrew Jacob Wang, David Andrew Washburn, Paul Frederick Weber, George Dale Weeks, David Howard Weller, Harold Francis Worley, Robert Louis West, Avery Wilder, Randall Lee Williams, Rex Stewart Wood, James Edwin Wood.